Kurtiss Riggs Show. The head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm. The Kurtiss Riggs Show on FM 98.1, AM 1230, KWSN, and KWSN.com. The Kurtiss Riggs Show being brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute. Now, here's your host of the Kurtiss Riggs Show, the voice of the Sioux Falls Storm, Rich Frosty.
And good afternoon, and hi, everybody. I'm Rich Frosty, and welcome to the Kurtiss Riggs Show. And what a beautiful day it is outside. It's going to get warm this week. But we still play indoor football, and we have a lot of fun doing it. And last Friday night, the Sioux Falls Storm victorious over the Quad City Steamwheelers, 66-52. And we'll be talking to the Storm head coach about that game. And then also on the Kurtiss Riggs Show, we'll have a couple of new players. Going to bring in wide receiver quarterback Trayvon Chapman and also defensive back DeAndre Scott. We're going to be talking to both of them during the Kurtiss Riggs Show. Then in our final segment with the head coach, we'll be talking about the Arizona Rattlers. The Sioux Falls Storm will be traveling down to Phoenix, Arizona to take on the Rattlers. That's a Sunday afternoon game. It's a 4:05 kickoff. We're going to have the pregame show starting at 3:45 on FM 107.9, and I'll have all of the play-by-play action for you. That's coming up on Sunday at 4:05 in the afternoon. The Kurtiss Riggs Show is proudly presented each week by the official Storm sports medicine providers, Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital, the Storm's official healthcare team, and the only 5-star rated hospital in Sioux Falls. And also by Orthopedic Institute, the one to trust. Coming up next, he is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs, and you're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show right here on FM 98.1, AM 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN.
Ever wonder what...
On the average day, the Winklers are a splendid little family. But today is not your average day. It all started when little Susie went in for her first bite of cereal. Dad went to investigate, but had issues of his own along the way. That's when it became blatantly clear the furnace was broken, and it was time to call the service guys. Waterbury, we are service.
Listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Frosty.
And each week, our opening interview with Storm head coach Kurtiss Riggs is brought to you by the great folks over at Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Storm sponsors since day one. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Come see what fresh really is. Baked fresh, sliced fresh, and delivered fresh. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. #1 in delivery sales for the Good Sense franchise system for the past 20 years. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Man, that's good. Here's the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm okay, Rich. How are you?
Well, the sun's shining and the water's receded around this area anyway, and it looks like it's going to be some pretty nice weather coming up for us. But I said earlier, we still play indoor football, and we have a lot of fun doing it, don't we?
It is enjoyable. Yes, I agree.
Well, Coach, around the IFL, there's only 3 games going on this past weekend. Of course, the Storm played on Friday night, and they hosted the Quad City Steamwheelers, and the Storm wins 66-52. We'll be talking about that game in the next segment. But then on Saturday, there was a very interesting game down in Nebraska as they hosted the Iowa Barnstormers. Tell us about that ball game and the ending.
Well, it was a back-and-forth game. I mean, both teams, there had to be numerous lead changes in this game. And the ending definitely had its exciting points, too. Nebraska had the lead and had Iowa backed up. And Iowa, the quarterback backs up into his end zone and looks like he's going to be sacked for a safety, finds a way to escape, throws the ball clear across the field, and is able to throw a touchdown pass on just a tremendous play. And then Nebraska is able to drive and be in field goal range and then miss the field goal to tie the game. But it was, back and forth. Looked like Nebraska had the game won, and then the Iowa quarterback makes a tremendous play to escape, throw the touchdown, and then still they hold on to prevent the field goal at the end.
Now, the Storm has played Nebraska, and the Storm was victorious in that game, and we have not played Iowa at this particular time. What did this game tell you about both of those teams' improvement or not?
I don't think you can ever judge indoor football by how a team does against another team, because sometimes it's matchups. I mean, you look last year, Cedar Rapids went and down to Arizona and played them very tough. Just about beat them. And then we would play Cedar Rapids last year and beat them by a lot. I don't think it's the same thing here. I think Iowa went in. Playing on the road's always very difficult. And Nebraska, we saw they have very good talent, they have good athletes. Tommy Armstrong played a good game, but more so the running back, Lynch, had some tremendous runs. And they were able to fight and claw and still get a win. I think that's probably the measuring stick of anything else, is that good teams and on the road in tough games still find a way to win. And Iowa did that. And they're 3 or 4-0 now, and I think Nebraska is 2-2.
That's exactly right. Iowa is 3-0, and you're right about Nebraska. Now, the other game that went on was Green Bay traveling out to San Diego, and the Blizzard victorious in that contest, 53-45. Anything you know about that game?
Well, it was good to see Marquise Rogers. He's been a major contributor for the San Diego offense. I can't understand why he wears a shirt that has a hood that sticks out the back, and why the league lets him do it.
Right.
It's got to be a safety hazard. A player gets his hand caught in that hood or grabs him, and I just don't understand it. But he's having a very good year, though. I mean, he's up there in the top 5 in receiving and making plays for them, doing a nice job. But, San Diego got within 8 points at the end, but just couldn't get a critical stop against Green Bay when they needed one. And Green Bay was able to get the victory.
The standings right now, the Storm 4-0 on the year. Arizona and Iowa both 3-0. Tucson is 2-1. Quad Cities and Green Bay both 2-2. Cedar Rapids, Nebraska 1-3. Bismarck 0-3. San Diego is 0-4 this week, a full slate of games. Green Bay is at Quad Cities. Nebraska is at Bismarck. Iowa is going to be at Cedar Rapids. That's a Friday. Then the next 2 are Saturday games. Then Sunday, San Diego is going to be at Tucson, and the Storm is going to be at Arizona. And we're going to be talking about that game a little bit later on in the Kurtiss Riggs Show. So, Coach, hang tight. We'll be right back with you, and we'll talk about the win over Quad City Steam Wheelers after we pause for this timeout. But this segment brought to you by Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. #1 in delivery sales for the Good Sense franchise system for 20 years. Come see what fresh really is. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Man, that's good. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosti.
And the Storm Weekly Game Recap is brought to you by Eastway Bowl, the perfect spot for family fun, and Eastway Sports Lounge, the official Storm road game viewing party hosts. And the next viewing party is this Sunday, March 31st, as the Storm travels to Phoenix, Arizona to take on the Rattlers. Kickoff is at 4:05 p.m. Again, that's on Sunday, March 31st. And he is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs. Coach, it was an interesting game the other night. What's your overall kind of take on the game after you sit back and look at it after the game is all over?
We probably played our poorest game defensively in quite some time. That's the biggest thing. We could not win third downs. We couldn't, make anything difficult for him. I thought we got pressure on the quarterback, but yet he was still able to make throws and make them look pretty easy to his receivers. I mean, I didn't feel like we did a very good job taking things away and making them have to earn things.
We I only have one highlight. I'm going to play that at the end of our segment here, but just wanted to talk about a few things as far as numbers are concerned. The number 0. There were no turnovers in the game, and that is almost it's actually unusual that there isn't a turnover of some kind, and there were none in this contest.
Yeah, really there was 0 stops in the game. I mean, we scored with 14 seconds left in the first half. They got the ball back and had to attempt a field goal and missed it, and that was the only stop the entire game. And so, yeah, usually if there's stops, it's because there's turnovers. And both offenses were playing at a very high level.
Penalties. Storm was only penalized 3 times for 14 yards. Steam Wheelers were penalized 13 for 79 yards. The Storm did a much better job as far as getting out of not getting into trouble with dead ball foul situations, didn't they?
We did. Yeah, we did a much better job controlling emotions and just being more disciplined mentally. We just, we're lacking in some other areas, though.
As far as numbers go, as far as this game, here's another one I thought that was interesting. Storm, very balanced offense. You had 153 yards of passing, 128 yards of rushing. Quad Cities, on the other hand, much lopsided as far as the pass to run. They had 257 yards pass and 50 yards of rushing the football. But I thought the Storm, you really mixed things up. It seemed like the first half was maybe more rushing, more passing maybe in the second half. Tell us about that.
Well, and some of it was Darren Miller got hurt, and you just start to take what they give, too, and they were giving us some pretty easy windows for Lorenzo to throw to and some pretty good matchups for us also. And likewise, they felt like they could throw. They didn't have to run. Usually you want to eliminate the run and make a team one-dimensional, but that was just their approach from the get-go.
Talking with Storm head coach Kurtiss Riggs on the Kurtiss Riggs Show. Also, it was a rough night for kickers. There were a total of 8 missed kicks. Bergner was 6 of 10 in PATs, and Rowe was 0 for 1 on field goal, and PAT he was 4 of 7. Just an interesting night for kicking. Usually that is not the case.
Well, and Miles hadn't missed an extra point all season yet, and came out. He looked like it. I told him, Miles, I'm definitely not a kicking guru, but it looks like you're slowing your leg down trying to aim the ball. Just kick through it. And, the thing is with Miles is he's been around now long enough. He's mentally tough enough, which is a rarity for kickers. He's the exception, though. He's mentally tough enough to overcome and start to figure it out what he's doing and get back on track.
It's kind of like a putting stroke. You get the yips, and if you don't think about it, it's better. And you start to analyze, you get what they call it, analytical paralysis, and you get your mind in it too much.
That's kind of all my swings. That's not just my putting. That's all my swings, Rich.
You and me both.
Yeah.
You had mentioned it before. Storm scored on every touchdown on every possession, and the Quad City, all but 1 or 2, I think they were maybe on downs and a missed field goal. But, yeah, a very high-scoring game. And then the other point, as far as numbers are concerned, it's the most points given up by the Storm, 52. Previously, the average was 32. Just an interesting number as far as this game is concerned.
Yeah, it was a frustrating night. I mean, for our team, not just our defensive coaches. Yeah, of course they're frustrated, but our team. I mean, it's something that we know we have to get better at. And I loved our guys' approach last night. We had the guys in last night, and they came ready to learn, ready to work, and Coach Hermanson went back to the very beginning. I mean, here's how we started implementing, and do we all understand and going through it. And I loved it.
Oops, looks like we lost Coach Riggs. We'll see if we can get him back. A couple other things that we're going to be talking about as we continue our conversation with Coach Riggs is how the Storm was leading by 8 points, and I thought the game was over during the broadcast. But then things kind of got extended. We didn't realize that Quad Cities had another timeout, and a timeout was called. And there's the timing rules inside of 1 minute that the team that has the lead has to advance the ball. And Coach Riggs had called plays so that the Storm was advancing. They're getting down inside the 10-yard line. And they picked up what they thought was a first down, so the next play was coming up. But then a timeout was called, and it was kind of interesting. So we have Coach Riggs back on the phone, and I was just talking about the ending of the game, that it was kind of unique in the fact that Storm was leading by 8. I thought the game was over, but then things continued. Tell us a little bit about how that all played out.
Well, do we have enough time? I mean, I felt like the game was going very well, quick too, especially for a game with so many points.
Yes.
You know, the clock stopped after the 2-point conversion, so usually games like that take a little bit longer. But this one I thought was moving very well until that last minute of the game, and discrepancy on timeouts, and we had a challenge, and it just seemed like it took forever. Plus, you have to get positive yards, so Quad Cities, you know, only being down a touchdown, of course they're going to fight to, who knows when a fumble could happen, or if they were to stop us for negative yards, the clock stops. So, I mean, they continue to play.
And it just seemed like it drug out, and I was confused as far as the timeout's concerned and different things like that, and it kind of showed my ignorance during the broadcast. But it all finished up. The Sioux Falls Storm win the game. You wind up getting an extra touchdown that you weren't really trying for, but you had to advance the ball, and you're at the 2-yard line, so you take it in. But the final thing I wanted to talk about this game was the night that Lorenzo Brown had. And he accounted for 10 touchdowns. He had 4 passing touchdowns. He had 6 rushing touchdowns himself. He's second in the IFL in percentage passes. That's just another number I wanted to throw out. But also that he had his hand in every point scored. He's also the holder for the point afters. And Lorenzo Brown just had an amazing night playing football last Friday night.
Well, I thought he had a tremendous game. And it's funny, you know, when he plays like he did the other night, I mean, everyone just expects it. You know, not many people go, hey, great game, Lorenzo. I mean, because I think he was 15 of 18 passing the ball.
Yes.
I mean, that's unbelievable. And we were throwing the ball downfield, too. It's not like all those are checkdowns. He was stretching the field. He made some great throws downfield. And then, 6 rushing touchdowns. And I don't think people know that. I know you mentioned it, but he is the all-time touchdown leader in the IFL. And
right.
There have been some great, great players that have not been able to do what he's done. And I think to play like that, we'll win a lot of games if Lorenzo can play like that.
Here's a highlight that kind of epitomizes how Lorenzo Brown plays football.
They picked up 15 as Lorenzo Brown, a keeper left side, kind of takes his time, lowers his shoulder, takes on the defensive back, and bowls right over Everett Nichols. Oh my! Lorenzo Brown showing some football moxie on that one for a quarterback. Takes it down to the 4-yard line. Gain of 15 again for the Sioux Falls Storm. Sets up first down and goal at the 4.
And that's one of those things that kind of gets lost and gets overshadowed by all of the touchdowns. But that's how he plays the game. He just plays it all out every time. Sometimes things work. Sometimes they don't. Last Friday night, pretty much everything he did worked.
Yeah, that's just about exactly it, Rich. I mean, he was kind of in the zone. He was seeing and reading their defense very well. And then his run keys, he did a very nice job on, and they were daring him to beat him, and he was able to effectively all night long.
Any final thoughts about the game as the Storm win at home as they defeat the Steamwheelers 66-52?
I thought it was a great win, especially at home. First game at home, though. The guys playing with a little bit of nerves. We're trying to work the kinks out. It's game day, everything. So as we continue to play at home, we'll try to get better and better. We play at home not for a while again, and when we do, I think we have Iowa and Arizona that come in and play us. So, people are definitely going to want to come see those games. We'll have some very good, tough opponents coming in our place, and we'll need the support help to beat those teams.
Starting on April 20th, the Storm will be playing 4 out of 5 games at home during that stretch. Coach, after a while, we'll talk about the Arizona Rattlers. That game's going to be very interesting down in Phoenix coming up on Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock. We'll have the game for you on FM 107.9. But, Coach, we'll talk to you then.
All right. Thanks, Rich.
He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs, and this segment brought to you by Eastway Lounge, the official road game viewing party host. The next viewing party is this Sunday as the Storm goes down to Phoenix. Kickoff is at 4:05, again Sunday, March 31st. Coming up next, we'll be talking to quarterback wide receiver Trayvon Chapman as the Kurtiss Riggs Show continues right here on FM 98.1 AM 1230 Sports Radio KWSN.
Your body is a complex arrangement of bone and tissue that requires only the best to maintain it. At Orthopedic Institute, that's our specialty. Our services have been specifically tailored to provide the best orthopedic care in the region. Orthopedics is what we do. That's why Orthopedic Institute is the one to trust to keep your body in motion.
First Premier Bank Free Plus Checking gives you the freedom to experience life, to enjoy the things you love, and to breeze through checkout lines with free mobile wallet features. Bank anywhere you want with online account opening and instant issue debit cards. Feel the freedom of no fees, no minimum balances, and no unpleasant surprises. First Premier Bank Free Plus Checking. Apply online or at any branch location. First Premier Bank, member FDIC.
You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And this segment of the Kurtiss Riggs Show is brought to you by Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And after we go to break, we'll take your third call, 336-1230. 4 free tickets for the Storm home game coming up on April 20th when the Storm hosts the Iowa Barnstormers. That's going to be a dandy. And call for free tickets after we go to break after this segment. Joining us via the fan line, he is a wide receiver. He's a quarterback. And he is Trayvon Chapman. Trayvon, thanks for being on the Kurtiss Riggs Show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, you went to the University of Akron, did you not?
Yes, sir, I did.
And our next guest coming up is going to be DeAndre Scott. He also went to the University of Akron. Were you guys teammates?
Yes, sir. We were teammates for 3 years.
Oh,
yep.
really?
He's my roommate now. Yes, sir.
Oh, I'll be darned. I did not realize that. Well, tell us
Yes,
a little
sir.
bit about where you grew up and how you wound up at University of Akron.
Okay, well, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio originally. My dad was a football coach my whole life, so I traveled with him any new coaching job that he got. So I went from Cincinnati to Columbus, and then he ended up coaching at Kent State. So I went out to Kent with him, and then I finished up high school there. And then, as you know, I committed to Pittsburgh, and then I went to Ashland University, and then I ended up at the University of Akron. I played there for 4 years, 3 at quarterback, and my last season was at wide receiver. And I had a sports hernia injury last season, my last year of football. So that didn't really project well going into the next level as far as the NFL. So I really took the year off, and I was just I was teaching. I was a substitute in Dayton, Ohio. And then it's funny because DeAndre, the one you'll talk to next, he actually called me out of nowhere and was like, "Hey man, you want to play ball again?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I've been waiting for a call like this." So really, it was just he had been talking to Coach Riggs, and then I don't know how he found out about me. Coach Riggs ended up looking at my tape and he liked it, and that was the end of that, and here I am. So.
Well, that's just an amazing story, and you've taken about 3 or 4 of my questions already in that one answer, Trayvon, which was a great answer. I'm not saying that, but the thing about it, I did want to ask you about why the transition from quarterback to wide receiver.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good question. A lot of people ask me that. I had been a quarterback my whole life, and my dad, played receiver. He was All-American high school. He played receiver at Ohio State. He had some time in the NFL in Canada. So the receiver was kind of in my bloodline, but I always wanted to play quarterback. I wanted to be the guy with the ball in my hands at all times. And then, you know, in college, I just felt myself kind of deteriorating a little bit. I wasn't really, you know, I had peaked really early in high school. And as far as quarterback went, I just didn't feel like I was really getting any better. You know, I was really stationary. And it was a time when I really wasn't happy with where I was in football. And, you know, I was going into my last year at Akron, and I'm like, this will be my last season. This might be my last chance at football, period. I want to really show people what I can really do. You know, I've always been an athlete. I just happen to play quarterback. That's what I always tell people. So I just decided to make the switch to receiver. It was either that or strong or free safety. And, you know, I just decided to switch to receiver, and I put everything I had into it, and I ended up, you know, having a pretty successful year, getting third team All-MAC. So it really just came down to me wanting to show, you know, put my athleticism on display.
Well, I tell you what, you made your mark with the Sioux Falls Storm in the first game of the year. You had a kickoff return for a touchdown. Tell us about that.
Right. Yeah, that was a blessing. It was actually the first time that I touched the ball in the IFL. And it was, I got back there, he kicked it right to me. My teammates in the front line did a great job blocking. I made a couple moves, and then next thing I know, I'm in the end zone. And it was so surreal. I didn't even think I scored. The stadium was so quiet. And I'm looking around to see if I got a flag or just to see if this moment was real. And, you know, it surely was. And, you know, I'm just blessed with the opportunity. I'm blessed to be able to, you know, say I'm here. And I'm also blessed to be able to score in my first, you know, professional game. So that was big for me.
Talking with Trayvon Chapman with this Sioux Falls Storm. And he's a backup quarterback to Lorenzo Brown. What's it like for you to learn a new system? You've been out of football a little while, and you come into indoor football. You never played indoor football before, and you wind up trying to learn the system to be the backup to Lorenzo. Tell us what that's like for you, Trayvon.
It's a great process for me because I'm such a student of the game, and what better teacher to have than, you know, the IFL's leading rusher. You know, just one of the probably the best quarterback in IFL, period. You know, so what better guy to have teach me than to be him? And like you said, coming into the game, I didn't know any ins and outs about the IFL or anything like that. But Zoe did a great job, you know, just pulling me under his wing and teaching me, you know, the ins and outs and little things here and there. And with that connection has even gone even further because, you know, I play receiver. I do back him up, but I'm mainly at receiver. So me and him have a connection at quarterback as well as quarterback and receiver. So it's been great learning from him all around.
Well, after the game last Friday night when Damon Ford had some major contact with the wall, you can talk to him about how to hit the wall and how to not hit the wall.
Right.
Because he took a really good hit that first touchdown that he had. That later on he went over the wall, upside down, and bounced right back over. If you go with it, it's much easier than trying to go through the wall.
Right, exactly. And I'll tell you what, that wall is something that scares me. You can ask Coach Riggs. That wall scares me a lot because you know, going full speed and then smacking the wall is something that I'm not familiar with. So, you know, we got to learn the hard way.
There's no doubt about that. But you like to do a couple things off the field, like writing poetry and stories and art. Tell us a little bit about that, Trayvon.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm such a creative person. You know, I have like a really creative, broad mind. So when I was little, when I would get bored, you know, I would either go outside and play some type of sports or something, or I would just find some time, quiet time to myself to sit down and write. And I would just make up short stories about anything under the moon. You know, it could be any type of topic. And then after a while, I actually started getting really good at it. And I started writing when I was in junior high. And I even had like a couple English teachers help me write some short stories and things like that. But as I grew into my adult life, those short stories kind of it turned into like poetry. It was kind of my escape, you know, because as athletes, we don't really have anybody to talk to about the things that that's going on, and especially being a male, you know, in today's society, it's all about be tough and this, that, and the third, and you really don't have an outlet. So I found poetry and writing as my outlet to kind of say the things that I was going through in my life and things that I've been through in my life and things like that. So I still write poetry to this day. I still write short stories and things like that. I actually sometimes I'll send the poetry out to my family and things like that just to help inspire them. And if what I went through can help, somebody else ease their process of what they're going through, then I'm all for it. So.
Well, Trayvon, you're an amazing athlete, an amazing man. I really appreciate what you've done this short period of time that you've been with the Sioux Falls Storm, and I wish you nothing but the best the rest of this season.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate the opportunity. God bless.
Thank you very much. Trayvon Chapman, wide receiver, backup quarterback for the Sioux Falls Storm. Now, when we go to break, we'll take your third call, 336-1230. 4 free tickets for that game coming up on April 20th against the Iowa Barnstormers, and you're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show right here on FM 98.1, AM 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN.
You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230, Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And this player interview, courtesy of Lewis Pharmacies. Get in, get out, feel better. And when we go to break, we'll take your third caller, 336-1230. 4 free tickets for the game coming up on April 20th when the Storm hosts the Iowa Barnstormers. Joining us now on the Kurtiss Riggs Show, DeAndre Scott. Dre, thanks for being on the Kurtiss Riggs Show.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
I did not realize that you and Trayvon Chapman were teammates at Akron. Tell us about the time together.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It was a fun time for sure. He actually came in my sophomore year, and from there, we just pretty much, linked up as far as teammates and everything, practice, and then, out of practice. And from there, we just kind of developed a relationship as great teammates and great friends.
And also, you were the one, what he had said earlier, was the fact that you had actually helped get him noticed by Coach Riggs and eventually get him to Sioux Falls.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So, I was pretty much crazy. I knew we've been talking about getting in and playing football and back playing together. He was looking to get back into it. So I knew this would be a great opportunity for us both to showcase, our talents and get to where we're ultimately trying to go. But also bring another championship back to Sioux Falls.
We're visiting with DeAndre Scott. They call him Dre, defensive back with the Sioux Falls Storm. He is also the leading tackler for the Sioux Falls Storm with 23 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss. He has a forced fumble recovery, an interception, a broken pass, and your solo tackles are fourth in the IFL. You're having a pretty good year. Tell us a little bit about what this has been for you to learn the indoor game, also learning Brian Hermanson's defensive playbook.
First and foremost, it's a blessing. Like I said, just 2 years ago, honestly, I was just playing football, so the past 2 years I haven't really been doing too much. But it's honestly, it's a blessing. I take it each and every day to get better, make the most of it. Coach Hermanson is a great coach. The defensive scheme we play is really good, similar to what we did at Akron. So the playbook was pretty quick to pick up, but I'm having fun with it and just keep on looking to get better each and every week for the most part. But the indoor game is a lot different for the most part, but I'm having fun picking it up and learning the rules about it.
Well, there's something that you have done in your past that very few players that have come through the ranks of the Sioux Falls Storm have done, and that in the fact that you were in the military for a full enlistment. Tell us about that, about being in the Army.
It's a lot different for sure. Really mentally challenging for the most part. You got to really be strong-minded, really be focused, and pay attention to detail. In there, it's a lot different. It's life or death. So, making the best decisions, waking up early, to making sure that you have, your battle buddies or your partner's back each and every time, learning things that not too many people in this lifetime will ever see or do. So it was a lot different. It was an experience, definitely a fun one, and I'll miss it. I can say that.
What is there one thing that you learned in the service that makes you a better person today?
Really just patience, and just having no fear. Yeah, that was the main part for me. Life, we deal with a lot of ups and downs, and being in that, a lot of things we can't control. So for the most part, patience, it taught me a lot when I was in there. Not having cell phones, not having none of that for the time I was in. That teach you a lot to depend and self-eval. So patience was the main thing for me.
Well, having you come after being in the military, come back and playing football, like you said, it's a blessing for you. But you are making the most of it, Dre, because you are playing some really high-level football right now, leading tackler for the Sioux Falls Storm.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate you being on the Kurtiss Riggs Show, and we'll see you out in Arizona.
Yes, sir. I look forward to it.
Okay, thanks so much.
All right.
DeAndre Scott, defensive back with the Sioux Falls Storm. And we go to break. We'll take your third call at 336-1234. Free tickets for the Storm game coming up on April 20th against the Iowa Barnstormers. And coming up next, we'll be talking to the Storm head coach, Kurtiss Riggs, about the Arizona Rattlers. And you're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show right here on 98.1 AM 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN.
If you have The Rosties wanted their new house to be unique, so they went back to Fireplace Pros. The upstairs is traditional, but the downstairs is very modern. They are delighted.
We wanted a different look and feel within our house, and Fireplace Pros, as always, helped us make it happen. They're the best.
Visit us on the web or stop by your nearest Heat and Glow or Heatalator dealer. Fireplace Pros, Heat and Glow, and Heatalator. You're gonna love the way your home feels.
If you like to bowl, roll on into Eastway Bowl. Hey, wait a minute. Eastway Bowl is more than just bowling. It's a full of fun entertainment center. There's many things to do. Games, and more games, plus food. Great food. Come into our full-service sports bar and grill where you'll find terrific drinks with our popular late-night specials. Watch all your favorite sporting events at Eastway. Visit our website to make your bowling reservations and find out more about the full fun experience. Eastway Bowl and Entertainment Center, where there's something for everyone.
You're listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And welcome back to the Kurtiss Riggs Show. And this segment of the Kurtiss Riggs Show is brought to you by Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. 917 South Cliff Avenue, working to further enhance deliveries in Sioux Falls by supplementing their delivery staff with a third-party delivery company so you get your subs baked fresh, sliced fresh, and delivered fresh. Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. Man, that's good. He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, Kurtiss Riggs. Coach, we just had a couple of your players on. Didn't realize they were teammates at Akron as we talked to DeAndre Chapman and Trayvon Chapman and DeAndre Scott. Couple of really great interviews, seemed like really great guys, and I've got to see them on the bus and in practice and things like that, and they echo that on the field as well.
Yeah, and I think they're two first-class individuals also, Rich.
Coming up on Sunday afternoon, it's a 4:05 kickoff down in Phoenix, Arizona, taking on the Arizona Rattlers, a matchup of unbeaten teams, and whenever the Sioux Falls Storm and the Arizona Rattlers, it's always been a great game, and Arizona's 3-0 on the year. They have wins over Green Bay, Cedar Rapids, and Tucson. But they come into this season experienced. I think that's one thing I'd like to get folks to realize.
Yeah, they've got a lot of guys back and guys in key spots. They were able to go out and get some new guys, but they've got their offensive line back. They've got both their quarterbacks back. They had all three of their receivers back. They lost Amos to the AAF. But really, when you get your offensive line, that's key number one. And then they have two very good quarterbacks and different styles of quarterbacks, too. Key number two. And then they have the guys that you're throwing to, key number three. And on defense, they were able to, even though they had some veteran DBs last year, they were able to get Winfrey and, their other corner quite a few reps, and now they're starters this year to go along with Bubba Chapman, who I think he's one of the best defenders in the league. And then the guy I think that is playing phenomenal football is Merriweather. Merriweather last year was just learning the game. And now this year, I mean, he is flying around and wreaking havoc on the defensive side of the ball.
When you talk about both quarterbacks, Verlin Reed and Jeff Ziemba, it's like you said, they have different styles, but Coach Guy works with them very well into his offense, and they complement each other as far as what he wants to accomplish on the field. And that's not every coach can have a platoon system quarterbacking crew and make it work.
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, he uses them for their strengths. You know, and then they've got a very good running back. I think he's exceptional, and a lot of it comes from their offensive line, but he's very talented too. I mean, they're loaded across the board, Rich. I mean, they're a very good team. This is why, you know, as we've talked about teams week from week, we've said that they're kind of heads and tails above everyone right now, just because they're not having to worry about feeling out their roster right now. They have their guys. The only thing Coach Guy has to worry about now is other leagues coming and picking his guys off his roster.
And that's a problem for a lot of coaches because of the other leagues that have come along and guys wanting to advance, and that's a part of what the IFL is all about. You talked about their running back, Jabri Lally, and 236 yards. He has 9 rushing touchdowns. He has 4 receiving touchdowns. He averages almost 7 yards a carry. That's a very good running back to be able to complement your passing game, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, and I think they do a very good job of staying balanced. It would be easy with that offensive line to just line up and drop back and throw the ball downfield, but they continue to run the ball and mix things up.
Coach, it's going to be a tough game down there. What's your feeling about what's the bottom line for the Storm to come back with a win?
Well, you know, obviously the easy thing is to say we got to play much better defensively, but we've got to play aggressive football, Rich. I mean, we cannot be a finesse team. You cannot go against one of Kevin Guy's teams and just think you're going to, you know, finesse them to death and trick them. I mean, they're going to play smash mouth football, and you've got to be able to match that in some regards. It doesn't have to be every play, but there has to be times where you line up and you get after them. And we've got to be able to do that too, offensively and defensively. And I think it'll be a good test for us. You know, it's still early in the season for both teams, and there's a lot of season left, but love going down there, love competing against Arizona. I mean, this is what we desperately sought after and needed, and it's been a lot of fun. And we haven't always come out ahead on this rivalry, but it's always fun to compete against these guys because you know they do everything right. I mean, they practice, they watch film, they're very well prepared for their opponents, and you love that type of challenge.
Coach, couldn't have said it better myself. We'll talk to you down in Arizona.
All right, thank you, Rich.
He is the head coach of the Sioux Falls Storm, and this segment brought to you by Good Sense Deli Fresh Subs. It's delivered fresh. Check it out. Man, that's good. We'll be back to wrap things up in just a moment.
Spring around the corner.
When should you visit Sioux Falls Urgent Care? When that common cold is not so common. When that chicken definitely needed 2 more minutes. Or when you shouldn't have done it yourself. Sioux Falls Urgent Care specializes in medical fixes for life's glitches. We're faster than the ER at a fraction of the cost. So, when you're down from a sofa stage dive, see us. Walk-ins are welcome and most insurance is accepted. Visit Sioux Falls Urgent Care today.
Hey guys, Bellator lightweight champion Michael Chandler here. I'm here at one of my favorite places in the entire world, the wrestling room. But if there's one thing we know about wrestling rooms, they can get extremely dirty. We're talking skin infections, we're talking about funk, we're talking about smelly armpits, we're talking about all kinds of stuff. So, my friends at Pure and Clean Sports came up with an awesome solution. Spray it right on your skin, wipe it off, smells great, keeps you clean from the time you leave the mats to the time you can get home and shower. Not only is it the greatest skin defense in the entire world, it's the safest. Check them out, pureandcleansports.com.
You're listening to The Kurtiss Riggs Show, brought to you by Sioux Falls Specialty Hospital and by Orthopedic Institute on 98.1, 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN. Back to the show. Here's Rich Rosty.
And the Kurtiss Riggs Show goes by so fast. I always wind up with not a lot of time at the end, but I want to let you know that you can go to the Storm website. You can hear the whole show again. It's all archived there on the brand new Storm website. Again, the Storm coming up on Sunday, going to be playing 4:05. You can hear the game on our sister station, and that is FM 107.9. Want to thank you also to Lewis Pharmacies, because when we go off the air, we'll take your third caller, 336-1230, for the next Storm home game. That's on April 20th. Thanks to the Storm head coach, Kurtiss Riggs, along with our guests, Trayvon Chapman and DeAndre Scott. Also, thank you to John Michaels, our KWSN producer and engineer. Always makes things go so well. And I want to thank all of you, the listening audience, for making us a part of your day. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you again next week. And you've been listening to the Kurtiss Riggs Show right here on FM 98.1 AM 1230 Sports Radio, KWSN.